It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
This is J-Man here, back here with another one, and today I want to talk about the greatest EA UFC game ever, and that is obviously UFC 3. It is the best UFC game released since the infamous UFC Undisputed from 2012, and I can confidently say that because I have over 400 hours playing UFC 3. Now years later, following two more installments that have left many fans frustrated, let's go back and take a look at what made UFC 3 so great and why it's still on top. Our journey begins November 5th, 2017 when the UFC 3 reveal trailer was first released. This reveal trailer showcased multiple improvements from the previous installment UFC 2 going into UFC 3, and the trailer featured a mix of cinematic sequences and gameplay footage to give fans a taste of what was to come for the game. It obviously was a huge upgrade from UFC 2, focusing more on sports simulation rather than arcade adaptation, and the more they released new trailers, the more excited I became as a fan. I didn't grow up on UFC Undisputed 2012. That came out in 2012. Around that time I was playing, like any 10 to 11 year old, NBA 2K and motherfucking Call of Duty Black Ops and Madden 11, I believe that came out around that year. That's when Drew Brees was in the cover. That might be like Madden 09, but at that time that's what kids my age was doing. Why I did like the boxing and why I did like MMA. Like, my interest was solely focused on other sports titles. I didn't even get to play Undisputed 3 until like up to last year when I was like 20. When I was 21, I didn't get to play it up until last year. So when UFC 3 came out, this was my first taste of a real sports simulation involving boxing and MMA. And it felt like for the first time I was getting an ultra realistic sports simulation title for the sport that I watched. Now, did we get that? Fuck no, we didn't get that. But like I mentioned before, man, the vast difference between UFC 2 and UFC 3 is just astronomically different. And you know what was also apparent? You hitting that like and subscribe button, man. Come on, man, support the channel. You can help me out, and I'll help you out. I don't know how I'm helping you out. I mean, I'm making a video, but listen, just hit that subscribe button for your boy, please. And UFC 3 felt like, to me at least, that the franchise was actually turning into the right direction of simulation combat sports games, considering the game was under the same umbrella of a company that makes games like Madden and FIFA. I should have seen it coming that this was not true. Now let's get into the big meaty claw of this video, the gameplay. At its core, UFC 3's gameplay was a masterpiece. Before I get the comments, I know,
oh well, Jay has Superman block and haptic feedback, yada yada yada.
I know. Game was not perfect by any means, but look around this franchise. You just smell a stench of aroma. It just wasn't enough to just block break a button you'll mash your way to a victory. Success required a deep understanding of the game's mechanics. From the nuances of striking to the intricacies of grappling, every move had its own timing and rhythm. Learning to read your opponent and figure out that next move and react with, precision like Hitman 47 or something. That was just so mind-boggling and fun to me to be able to, pick apart your opponent like that. With a vast array of techniques and fighting styles at our disposal, abilities for creative expression with blood was endless. Now, the grappling, from what I remember in UFC 3, was so good to me. That's probably the most, this is probably the biggest part of that game, the best part. I mean, kind of, a callback to UFC Undisputed from 2012, because the big part of that game was a transition in particular. You were inside control, bottom side control, and there was like this transition you could go for where you can get up and go for a single leg and put them like in half guard or something. So stuff like that was just so cool to me. And even a clinch, right? We all know the clinch in UFC 3 was astronomical. You had the clinch deny. You were able to go from single collar to the tie clinch or over under. It was different variations you were able to take with the clinch. Now you mix in UFC 5's movement, UFC 4's movement with the vast array of how do I say this, positions of the clinch in UFC 3. I honestly think you have the perfect clinch system for a combat sports game. Now, obviously, we didn't get that going from 3 to 4. They took all of that out, including the clinch deny button, and pretty much simplified it down. But imagine if we had, you know, the back take included, you know, that back take position included with the clinch position. I think it's honestly the perfect grappling system. Even the submission system, the gate submissions are still my favorite to this day. I don't like the mini game, like the circle, trying to beat the circle that they got in the Undisputed games, or even the ones in UFC 4. And the transition based submissions in UFC 5 are pretty much exploited to oblivion. I feel like the gate submissions were honestly perfect. They should have kept it, in my opinion. But again, simplified. UFC 4 is just a simplified version of UFC 3, and I don't understand it. The gate submissions are so fun. You could go from a triangle to an arm bar using the green gates. And man, that game was just so And I can't believe I even forgot to mention this. You was actually able to throw multiple ground and pound elbows.
RB and do a strike, and you can throw elbows. Now, elbows are very powerful.
Oh man, that's so refreshing. But moving on into the striking, now like I mentioned before, the haptic feedback was kind of like it was like the Corona Zen controversy that we had in UFC 4. It was that for UFC 3. So if you don't know what Corona Zen, if you don't know what haptic feedback is, essentially it was for visually impaired players to where the on the screen and the controller will let you know what type of strike your opponent was throwing using the vibrations of your controller and indicators on the screen, right?
All right, we're going to take a look at the haptic feedback. Just keep in mind we're looking at the back of the controller, so when on the screen the right hand motor is turning, it's actually the motor that's on the left side of the controller. So right now I'm going to throw a head strike, and you'll see the motor on the right is the only one that turns. And then I'm going to throw a body strike, and you'll see the motor on the left is the only one that turns. Now I'm going to throw a leg strike, and you'll see that both of them turn.
Now, EA made the mistake of adding this into online play, and around this time, you know, the ESFL was picking up, and, you know, a lot of calf tourneys, and things like that, and people were using this to win bread, and it finally caught on. Now, they took it out of UFC 4, thankfully, but this was a really big thing because people were just flat out cheating using this, and I don't understand why they had this in the game. And then the shield block, honestly, I've never had a problem with the block in UFC 3. I thought the block, it was a tad bit strong, I will agree, but compared to what we have now, I would much rather, I could take that on the chin with that block. I have no problem with that. But the striking itself was just so smooth, man. It was so smooth, bro. Just the frame traps, and even the controls for spinning attacks, kicks, it felt refreshing. Even for a switch kick, you had to throw crazy. And might I add, the mocap animations. There was even mocap animations. So if you don't know Sean O'Malley using the new RPM mocap system for striking, Sean O'Malley was actually able to mocap his animations. Now the problem is that he wasn't actually hitting anything, so he looked like he was man, UFC 3, it was just so good, man. I love the game. I don't play it as much as I used to. I need to get back to playing it, but I almost said I played it till this day. That was cap. I don't play that. Hold on, before we go, you was able to pick your own weight classes. How can I forget that you was able to pick your own weight classes, man? Like, come on, bro. UFC 3 was just too elite. Please, man, y'all let me know down below in the comment section, what do you guys think about UFC 3? I want to hear your honest and brutal takes about the game and just the EA UFC franchise in general. Does it pale in comparison to UFC 4 and 5, or is it better than UFC 4 and 5 like I think? Alright, let's talk about it. Let me know down below in the comment section. Peace, love, and prosperity. Love you guys. Do something productive with your day. Be here. It's not productive. It's been Jamie May with another video essay, and I'm out, man. See you guys next time. Peace.